All right, the meeting of the Independent Ethics Board is now called to order on this July 21st, 2020, and it is 4:01 p.m. This is a video conference meeting. It is live streamed on the Ethics Office's webpage, and we are recording it for future reference. Mrs. Atkins, will you call the roll?
Yes, Brian Smith, Carlos Ray, Richard Herring, Gwen Graham, Penny, Ruby Barr. That just
I may
leaves
log off
us.
and log back on, see what if that helps. Can you hear it?
Give me 1 second. Richard, can you hear me?
I think he logged off to log back on.
Okay. Well, give him a second. Sorry.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I've just been told by my wife, who's monitoring it, the audio isn't coming through. Do you have any problem with
Not coming through at all.
Yes, they're working on that. I received a call. They were having trouble with the broadcast.
They being the
that? They're working on it.
people at the city that are running this.
Yes,
Okay.
technology is working on it. The recording will be important.
Do we continue while they're working on it?
Yes.
Okay.
I
So-
can hear everybody.
All right, Ms. Atkins, do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hi, Ruby.
Hey, Gwen. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to go on vacation.
Yeah.
All right, board members, when you're not speaking, we ask that you mute your microphones. The meeting will be conversational. You do not have to raise your hand to speak to the public. You may have noticed that your audio is muted. There are several hosts of this meeting who are managing speaker access and will turn on public microphones when it is your time to speak. Last week, we asked the public to submit comments in advance of today's meeting. The staff has compiled and disseminated your comments to the board members. In addition, those who have submitted comments will be given a chance to speak on agenda and non-agenda items as scheduled. We have your information and we will call on you. We ask that everyone show patience. There is a delay with online communications, and there are a number of people actively working behind the scenes to ensure the public has full access and the meeting is run orderly. We thank the public for your interest, and your input is very valuable to us. Our board members, has everyone received the agenda and supporting documents?
Yes.
All right. With regard to the agenda or any procedures for conducting today's meeting, are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add one thing to the agenda.
Mr. Floyd, go ahead.
At the end of the agenda, I'd like to talk a little bit about planning, like create a strategic plan. So we could put that on as a topic.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue with any of the board. All right, approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the June 16th, 2020 meeting. Do I hear any approval?
So moved.
All right. We'll now move to the ethics officer's report. Mr. Floyd, will you be so kind as to give us a summary report?
Sure. And actually, you received the report. I won't go over the whole thing. There's, you will see that there are several significant expenditures. There's actually somewhat modest, but they're for legal services, board attorneys, and one expense to the court reporter. I'll also note that we're currently looking at a better method of communicating confidential information. When I came on board, I found that we communicate by way of postal service, which is not the most efficient means. And I've had discussion with Ernie Payne about technology use. So I'm going to go back to the technology group and see if we could use something like Drop or FileZilla to send confidential files. Other than that, this is stated in the report.
All right. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any questions from any of the board members concerning Mr. Floyd's report?
Repeat yourself. You were in a buffer.
Okay. Have you all had time to review the budget report? Are there any questions concerning the budget report? All right. At this time, we're now open for public comment.
All right, Mr. Chair, we have one public comment. And give me a second. Let me make him unmute. Mr. Budsing, or can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, great. My name is Peter Butsine. I appear as a volunteer on behalf of Citizens for Ethics Reform. At its February 20th meeting, you may remember that Mr. Herring distributed a one-page document entitled Possible Lobbying Ordinance Recommendations. At the time, I testified that the recommendation provided a very good start, especially in tackling the city's ineffective definition of lobbying. The document pointed out the fatal flaw that the city's ordinance applies only to persons and firms that are contracted or employed for the purpose of lobbying. This excludes numerous individuals who might seek to influence city decisions for their personal financial or corporate gain, but who are not paid primarily for their lobbying efforts. Such persons often claim that they are, air quotes, consultants and not lobbyists. The July 14th list of registered lobbyists on the city's website lists only 20 individuals, which is down from 33 registered in the previous year. In January, the Tallahassee Democrat pointed out behind the scenes unregistered lobbyists and firms who influence city policy while escaping disclosure. Shortly thereafter, this board promised to consider expanding and clarifying the city's ineffective lobbying ordinance. And in addition to tightening the definition of lobbyists, the board's stated goals included protecting the right to lobby, preventing improper influence, restricting unfair opportunities for influence, and promoting transparency. Now, I think if we've learned anything from the board's recommended improvements in the city's ethics ordinance, it is that this board must take the lead by providing specific recommendations and language. The last time the board took the initiative, the City Commission passed an ethics ordinance that substantially adopted the board's recommendations. And with your leadership, the City of Tallahassee now has an effective, enforceable ethics ordinance. We're hoping for the same proactive leadership from this board to address Tallahassee's notoriously weak lobby regulations. We ask that you neither ignore nor further postpone this important topic. As you move forward, Citizens for Ethics Reform strongly recommends that you consider the 2012 report from the Jacksonville Ethics Board, which is entitled Lobbying: An Overview of Florida and Other U.S. Municipal Lobbying Codes. Shortly after the February 20th meeting, I shared that document via email with Mr. Floyd, Mr. Herring, and Mr. Reed. I suggest that this be the starting point for fleshing out specific recommendations to present to the City Commission. Our coalition asks, what became of our recommendations? Do you still plan to present specific lobby registration disclosure and standards to the City Commission? And if so, what is your time frame? We urge such action and would be grateful for the opportunity to provide input into drafting an effective lobby registration and disclosure ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is our only public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have any discussion or any questions concerning the public comment? All right. Mr. Payne, you're recognized. You're on mute, Mr. Payne. Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
I wanted to echo Mr. Bassin's comments, I think that's an important issue that we need to move forward with, and I just made a note to include this discussion, I guess, with Mr. Floyd's strategic plan at the end. But we need to definitely make some plans regarding that. That's all.
Mr. Herring, did I see you? You're on mute as well.
I would agree. I think that lobbying falls squarely within the parameters of ethics. And it is something that the board, several iterations of this board have talked about in passing over the last several years. We didn't include it in our last recommendations to the City Commission because I think we had so many other things that were at that point more important to us. But to me, it's the next biggest issue for us to deal with in terms of recommendations to the city.
Okay. All right. Noted. Anyone else care to comment? We thank you, Mr. Floyd, for those facilitating the public comments. I guess these issues, I'm sure we will be addressing in the future. At this point, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which will be a report on the Inspector General Ordinance. And since Attorney Reed played a primary role in the discussions, I will turn to him and I will follow up after he speaks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank this board and those that contributed. I think we were able to convey some concerns that we had with the city attorney and the city auditor, and they were very accommodating. There were primarily 4 issues that we addressed. One was confidentiality of ethics complaints as well as whistleblower complaints when filed with the wrong office. A lack of mandatory reporting of ethics complaints. If somebody were to file a complaint with the Inspector General, how would we ensure that it made its way to our office in a timely fashion? The overlap of duties having to do with a fraud hotline and the overlap of duties dealing with training and education. Pretty much all of these issues were not dealt with in the ordinance itself, but rather we're going to deal with by procedure. We did receive assurances from the city attorney and the city auditor that they would work with us on established procedures on the issue of confidentiality, for whistleblower complaints that we received, for ethics complaints that they received, as well as the issue of the reporting. If something were to come into us, we would have a certain window in which we would have to turn it over to the Inspector General and vice versa. So they were out all last week, so I plan to be speaking with them in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll present some draft procedures that we can consider at our next meeting.
Does anyone else have any comment that they'd like to add to this discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Payne.
I just want to say that that you also did a good job in presenting this. You spoke live to the board. I think it was important to put on record what was agreed to and what our concerns were. And I think that was very important so that there was true follow-up as we move forward.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to compliment all of you guys. I thought the letter was really well written and hit the points, hit every point that was relevant in relation to the ethics ordinance and this ethics board. I think you guys did an outstanding job.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. Hopefully, some of those points were driven home to the commission, but we'll just have to see, I guess, as we move forward. Anyone else?
Question as a point of clarification. Is it in fact true that the auditor for the city is going to be the inspector general? Yes?
I believe that is the case.
That is correct.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you for confirming.
Anything else before we go to the next agenda item? I will have to say, I can't help but notice, with the exception of a few who didn't get the memo, that it's Blue Shirt Day. Everyone seems to have on a blue button down of some sort today.
I
Except
can-
for our newbies.
I can go change. My closet's right around the corner if we want to have consistency. If this is the uniform for the day.
I see. I guess, yeah, so our pledges didn't have on the blue yet.
I have a blue shirt just like this.
All right. All right. Let me move back to our agenda. Next,
He's buffering again.
was I just buffering then?
Yes, sir.
I really think it's a PS4 or something that's being played that's taking up my bandwidth in another part of the house. So I apologize for that. All right, you may have seen a version of the rewrite of the ethics guide. Mr. Floyd has also created a test item bank with questions about the ethics code and with training scenarios to ensure that the interpretation of the ethics code is accurate. He's asking for persons with a legal background to review both the ethics guide and the test item bank questions. Something tells me that this board may be loaded with people who meet that criteria. So
I'm not guilty. I'm sorry.
so we suggested he requests assistance from members of the board who are attorneys. I can almost close my eyes and point to you all and find someone. And we can share the assignment so that no one person has to carry the load. I also think it's important to get some non-attorney eyes on it as well. And I believe you may have seen a draft of the revised ethics guide. So Mr. Floyd is asking for feedback. And at this time, I want to ask, do we have any volunteers? He would like to have this done by the first week in August, which is probably August 7th.
I'd be happy to help. And I also have the background of being the ethics officer for the Leon County School District. So I've done this, I've reviewed these before. I'd be happy to help, Dwight.
Okay.
And I think I saw Mr. Herron's hand go up.
Yeah, yes, sir. And unlike Ms. Graham, I have the, to my detriment, I did ethics training for the Florida Senate, but I'll try to leave that behind me.
Right. All right. Do we need one more, or do you all think this will suffice? Mr. Floyd, what do you think?
I would like to have two more.
Well, that's the whole board almost, isn't it?
Who else is an attorney?
I see Ms. Barr.
Oh, yeah, I can't see you over there. You're on the other page. I don't like that. There you go.
I'm on vacation. I'm on vacation to August 3rd.
Oh, that gives you 4 days. That gives you 4 days
No.
to contribute.
I got to recuperate.
Oh, all right. All right. Make sure you stay safe.
I'm trying.
All right. Mr. Ray?
Where'd he go?
Help
You can't
Okay.
hide. Where are you?
at the end.
There he is.
Help.
There he is.
All right. I think that may be it.
Is
All
it-
righty.
And I apologize if it's already been sent, but do we have a document that we can make edits on, Mr.
Yeah,
Floyd?
Yes, I will send the latest documents to you all.
Okay, awesome.
I will communicate.
Okay, perfect. I'm going back on mute. I know you guys are happy about that.
Thank you.
All right, well, quickly moving to agenda item number 8, training update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're in a position, I'm supposed to deliver training to new employees every month. We have and some existing employees, because they have something like 60 days to take the training after they become employed. We haven't implemented that. And then when I say we, I mean the Human Resource and Development Department and myself. We work together. We haven't implemented that since the pandemic. And considering the new norm, and realistically, this is the new norm, at least for a while. It looks like I'm going to need to train online, do virtual training. What it will mean is that I'll have to, and I haven't done that before, I'm going to have to become familiar with WebEx at a whole nother level. It allows for groups to work together and same way you do it in a class, because I don't want to be boring and I want to be effective. And I just want to make you aware that I'll be working with them. I'm going to ask to start doing it again in September to give myself time to prep. I'm guessing it'll take me about 40 hours of both learning how to use the system fluently and to adjust the material to online training. So this is just an FYI of some of the activity to come.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Floyd? Any recommendations or some aspects of training that you would like to see incorporated?
Mr. Chair,
Floyd, oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm back.
Who's going to go first?
you please.
You're so sweet. Mr. Floyd, do you have already a framework for the ethics training? Or are you having to start from scratch?
No, I created it, and the questions that you will receive to review is a part of that. So
Okay.
you'll see both.
Okay, is it possible for you to do a video that you could then not have, it could be available for all to view when they had time at their own, on their own timetable?
I'm planning on doing that for a separate course, because there are different levels of courses that they have to take. For the entry level course, much of that that we can do in person, the better, because it is their introduction to the city as well as to ethics. The asynchronous version will be for those people who are in their second or fourth year, because there are two different trainings that have to take place.
Does part of your training involve social media?
I can't remember right offhand, but
I ask only because I think that that's an area that direction is very needed a lot of times for those that are using social media regularly. Just some of the things to watch out for before you post.
right.
And when I was training the teachers at the school district, I would always admonish them that, just because you have your accounts on lockdown private and you think no one can see them, assume the opposite. Assume that everything you put out there could be on the front page of the Tallahassee Democrat, because that's the reality. So I think that's a new area that we need to address with city employees.
Yeah, I agree. I'll look at that and make sure it is.
Thank you.
I think that was an excellent idea. Thank you so much, Ms. Graham. Anyone else like to contribute or have any suggestions? All right, we'll move over to agenda item number 9, campaign contribution refund. At the last meeting, we gave Mr. Floyd some assignments. Today, he'll tell us where we are on those assignments. Mr. Floyd?
Yes, at the last meeting, you asked to send a letter to the candidates I did it via email so that there could be a report so they could, communicate back to us. You also directed me to hire someone to promote the program through social media. First, with the email, I heard back from 2 candidates who told me that they thought this was an important program. They were already using it, already linking it to our website, their page to our website. One asked about how long it takes to process an application and receive a refund. We supplied that information. With regard to a social media promotion, I have spoken to one individual that is supposed to get me a proposal later this week. Also reached out to a prominent social media company, and they told me they didn't have anybody because they hire all the people that I might want. So I'm going to see how this one individual turns out, and in the meantime, I'll keep feelers out there until I have something to present to the chair as a recommendation.
Concerning that, being in a college town, we may also be able to find a bevy of students or former students, recent grads who have expertise with social media. From what I'm hearing, I hear that's something that they kind of like to do a little bit. So that may be some aspect, and I may be able to provide some names for you to possibly look into as well.
Now, I would be interested in that. I think we're looking for someone who understands how to use the tools within Facebook to reach the targeted audience, and not just someone who's good at using the system. So that's what we're looking for.
All right. Anyone else like to add anything or have any
That's
questions of
all that I
Mr.
have.
Floyd concerning this agenda item? Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll go to agenda item number 10, future meetings.
Before you do that, Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
I asked to add a strategic planning or.
That's right.
Yes, I believe it or not, I've been here 5 months now. It seems like 3, but it's been 5 months. It's been a whirlwind, and I'm totally enjoying my job. I think we've reached a point where we need to plan so that I'm not acting in a reactive mode. But when I say we, what I'm doing and what the board wants, we're on the same on the same page. I'm meeting expectations, and we're not in a reactive mode responding to, whatever is the flavor of the day, so to speak. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's a 6-month plan or an annual plan or 3-month plan. In my mind, for example, I'm working on the ethics guide. Once I get that done, I want to work on the web page, and put those in a position where I don't have to do any major revisions in the near future. Maybe look at it again in 2 years just to make sure we're up to date with where things are. And I just want to do that kind of planning, and engage you all in that type of kind of planning, so we are on the same page with priorities. We spoke earlier about the lobbyist issue, and as you know, we talked about it the last 2 meetings. We could have talked about it this meeting, but to be quite honest, because of some of the other things we're working with, we would have thrown something together and that would give them the appearance that it had priority, and it does. But I asked John not to throw anything together because, as I stated before, if we do something, we want to do it well. So it still is a priority. But if we have a plan then we don't have to address what we don't see. We know it's happening whether we see it or not. So I'm looking for I'm thinking that I could get some input from you all and put something together for September. I just need to know whether you want a 6-month plan, an annual, a 1-year plan, 2-year plan, 3-year plan, et cetera, or whether you think this is a good idea at all.
All right. Ms. Graham?
Head bobbing. I think it's an excellent plan, Mr. Floyd, and I think, in my opinion, it would be better to at the most have a 6-month plan because things change and we don't know what might come up. And rather than have it be a year, let's try for 6 months. And if we need to, if we see after 6 months that it would be okay to have it for a year, at that point we could take what we've done previously and expand it into a year, of actions and issues that we wish to address. But that is not an opinion that I would. I mean, if others think we should have a year, that's fine as well. Certainly not 3 months. I don't think that's too short.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
Mr. Floyd, I would suggest that you might want to think about some kind of a sliding scale so that there are some things that happen maybe every 2 years, like taking a fresh look at campaign finance, because that's going to be pretty much on a biennial election cycle, or maybe making serious recommendations to the city commission for just, kind of routine recommendations to improve things. You don't want to do that too often. It's certainly not on a 3-month or a 6-month schedule. That might be annual or biennial. Certainly annually, we ought to be looking at what the Florida legislature has passed or has at least thought about or has seen in terms of proposals on ethics that might spur thoughts from us. I know the State Commission on Ethics makes recommendations pretty much every year. And so that would be something that I think we could do on an annual basis. So you might think about something where rather than have a set time frame, you have maybe a 6-month, an annual, and a biennial time frame with slightly different things on each time frame to kind of fit how the world works.
Well, I agree with Mr. Herring, and I was thinking about the activities of the state that influence what we're doing that should be slotted in so we are aware that they're coming up and should be considered. One of my questions, and it's not a concern, but it's, I feel like the most important responsibility we have as a board is addressing complaints. And I would like to see us dealing with the complaints on a more, expedited time frame. I'm not quite sure where the complaints are right now that we are, that have come to our attention and that we're dealing with them. But that time frame, I'd like to have a better idea of how we can get them either resolved or come to some conclusion on a quicker basis.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Payne, you recognized.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Herring and Ms. Graham on both of those points. Mr. Floyd has unfortunately been thrust into a I'm
not complaining. I'm just that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. He's got the training set up to do the updates for the website. Definitely the issue with the complaints. I mean, that's our primary purpose here. The recommendations for the lobbying ordinance as well. So for all those reasons, Mr. Herring's suggestion of a graduated plan would be appropriate. And I guess we just need to prioritize all the various items here and see what we can do about that. But we definitely.
I think that's something we need to develop a process and so that we know where we are. I am. Unlike Mr. Floyd, who's been helping us for 5 months, and he only thinks it feels like 3. I've been on this board for a little over a year. It feels like 10. Love you guys. Love you guys. But so anyway, but I do seriously, you all agree. But I do think that that would be beneficial, is to have a process that we know we're following, and so that we're aware where we are in the process with each complaint. And if there's anything that you need, Mr. Floyd, from the board to help expedite the process, just let us know what we can do to help with that. I'm over. I'm done.
All right. Anyone else like to comment?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Payne?
I would just suggest, after all these comments, that perhaps Mr. Floyd will come back with a draft next, or even email us, not waiting a whole other month for that, to just get some kind of draft and have us all comment, and so we can get the ball rolling as quickly as possible on this.
Yes, and Mr. Floyd, I'm living between Gainesville and Tallahassee now. I literally don't know where I'm going to be day to day anymore. So you were talking about things being sent through the mail. If it's sent here, I might not see it and I just can't. So I'm in Tallahassee today, so I would appreciate if there was some way we could electronically convey documents, just so that I don't end up trying to do the work I need to do overly quickly, because I want to make sure I have the time to do it well.
And I appreciate that. Ernie has generated some thought in our discussion, and so I'm going to follow up with technology group and see if we can come up with something electronic.
All right. Step up. Is that it for everyone? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. No problem at all. And so now we're moving to future meetings. Are there any topics you want to have on the agenda for our next scheduled meeting, which is in August? I believe August 18th, 2020.
I think one thing that would be helpful for those that are watching this, I'm sure everybody who's glued to this across the city of Tallahassee, but just an update of where we are, where the city is in terms of any potential opening back up, getting back to any type of face-to-face meetings. I don't think it's going to be for a while, but I just think that type of an update would be helpful to the citizens who are engaged in ethics and are watching our board meetings and would potentially be present if we went back to face-to-face meetings. Have you heard anything on that topic? Has anyone at the city, have you heard any rumblings about what they think will be? Oh, hi, Amy.
Hello?
Amy, yes, I just unmuted you. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. The only thing I know is that the governor's most recent executive order right now, it's been very confusing to follow it, but the one that is in place right now is set to expire on August 1st. And by what that would mean is that there would then no longer be a waiver of the in-person quorum requirement. I have not heard whether that will be extended again. If I had to hazard a guess based on the cases, I would think it probably will be. So, but I have no inside information on that.
Me.
All right.
Thank you, Amy.
As far as the next meeting, there's a strong possibility I will not be in attendance. We have to take my son to school, And right now, he's playing soccer, so his soccer team's supposed to report on August 17th, but as we all know with how things are going, and this pandemic numbers trending in the wrong direction at this current time, that may not take place. So I look to have more information within the next week or so, and I will keep you all informed.
Carlos, that means that I'll be worrying you. If you want to know what that means, talk to Brian.
All right.
All right. Well, seeing no future meeting updates, we move to agenda item number 11, directives. So, Mr. Floyd, could you summarize any tasks that may have been assigned to you today? I don't recall really having any.
Well, I'm going to follow up on the strategic plan or plan.
Okay.
And even though there wasn't any directive, probably have the lobbyist language back on the agenda in August. We'll have more time to prepare it. So I think those are the two things that you could most reasonably look forward to.
All right. Anyone else have any directives they'd like to have Mr. Floyd facilitate?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Payne?
I'm not sure if it was put as a directive or not, but I am looking forward to seeing some video training examples and something like that, some work product, I guess, for Mr. Floyd's training, just to see what that's going to look like.
Okay. So strategic planning and the video training or any training samples would be well appreciated by the board.
Okay, I can give you samples.
Okay.
I
yes,
just,
ma'am.
I just got a text message from Catherine Bear. I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, Catherine. She's just, and this is very important. It's very important that the ethics board work closely with the inspector general to address some of the overlapping responsibilities and other problems that have been identified. So just wanted to relay that on her behalf.
Say again, I
Okay.
had the PS4 issue again.
No worries. It is very important the ethics board work very closely with the inspector general to address some of the overlapping responsibilities and other problems that we have identified, and we being the group that have been so committed to this board and getting this board up and well running. And I'm sure they're mostly missing the in-person meetings. It was always so exciting to see each other every month. So I'm just relaying that on her behalf.
Okay.
Did you get it? Yes, I can see her nodding. Excellent.
Now, is it possible, Ms. Graham, did we have any audio or technical difficulties that precluded her from being able to?
She said she couldn't get through. So, I mean, and I think that under these circumstances, if I'm violating some rules, I apologize, but I'm asking for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, that was my motto growing up.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to point out that, as I said before, there was an audio problem at the beginning of the meeting. I think it was resolved about 15 or 20 minutes in, and that was probably after Mr. Reed's report, where he talked about planning meetings with the Inspector General. So just wanted to let Ms. Bear know that that was part of our discussion earlier, and hopefully Mr. Floyd and Mr. Reed are going to continue their discussions.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Ms. Costa?
I was just going to say, she put it under the questions It popped up earlier.
Oh, okay, okay. Do we have a facilitator, or do we need to start facilitating any questions or chat that comes up, or do we need to kind of
Actually-
disable that going forward and just leave it for people to submit in that time period? In a way, I kind of like it being up, and maybe it might be a review toward the end of the meetings. I don't want to be in a situation where people feel as if they can't approach us.
Yes,
I
that's a
recommend-
pretty good idea.
My recommendation would be for the Q&A, but not the chat.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I just recently saw a disaster at a school board meeting in metropolitan Atlanta with a open chat during a meeting. Yep. So, all right. All right.
Thank
So,
you for giving me another button to push.
all right. So, yeah, she said her microphone is muted and she couldn't get anyone's attention. So, we apologize for that. We want to make sure that we have or we remain open for the citizens to be able to contact us, and we'll also try to reiterate the time period in which we receive comments prior to. I do know sometimes non-agenda items will bring about new discussions or new questions or inquiries, so I want to make sure that we kind of facilitate that during the process of a meeting. All right. Having no more at this point, I guess I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Is this our shortest meeting? I think we're right about 46 minutes.
Probably so. I will move that we adjourn.
All right. Any opposed?
Nope.
All right. I guess I'll miss you guys until next time. Stay safe. And meeting adjourned.
Thank you.